guys? What's going on? This is the conservative speaking. Happy conservatives' perspective of Black History Month. Isn't this amazing? This is such an exciting time. And we're going to keep this joyous festivities going on by talking about Rosa Parks. Yes, the Rosa Parks. Now, everyone recognizes Rosa Parks as a civil rights activist, um, and a member of the NAACP chapter where she worked as a secretary. Rosa Parks, she was also the person that played a pivotal role in the 1955 Montgomery bus boycott that lasted 381 days and was moved by the NAACP and Martin Luther King due to the fact that she was arrested for refusing to give up her seat that was reserved for white folks. And because of that, Rosa Parks received a numerous amount of rewards over the years. Um, she was the recipient of the International Freedom Conductor Award presented by the National Underground Railroad Freedom Center. She also received the Spingarn Medal from the NAACP, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the Congressional Gold Medal, and she also received a statue in the U.S. Capitol's National Statuary Hall. When she died in 2005, she was the first woman to lie in state in the Capitol Rotunda. I mean, Rosa Parks was a national treasure, all right? And she was billed at by everyone. However, what if I were to tell you that everything that Rosa Parks was given was basically a facade? Because there was another woman who also did the same thing as Rosa Parks did, and she was also a part of the NAACP. Her name was Claudette Colvin, and Claudette Colvin um, was a member of the NAACP's Youth Council. And on March 2nd, 1955, she was arrested for refusing to give up her seat. Now, the only difference between her, sorry, was that Claudette Colvin was a woman who actually did exactly as stated, which was she had to sit in the reserved area meant for the color folks, in which she did. Now, Claudette Colvin, a young teenager at the time and pregnant out of wedlock, sat in the reserved area meant for the blacks. But because the bus became so overcrowded, um, then the rule was that if the bus became overcrowded and there were white folks that needed to sit, then black folks had to kind of move a little further so that that would allow some of the white occupants who entered the bus to sit in those seats that the conductor was able to make available due to allowing uh, the blacks to sit a little further back. And at the time, she refused to do it. She stated that she wasn't going to do it, that she was pregnant, and she did not feel like standing. She did not feel like standing, and in which the bus conductor stated, "Well, if you do not move, that I will call the police," which the police was called. I'm sorry. In which the police then came, tried to convince her to move. She refused to move. The police actually had somebody else move, have another black person move so that Claudette Colvin could then move back. Claudette refused to move, so she was arrested, handcuffed, forced out of the bus, and and that practically was the end of that, because the NAACP refused to follow up on her case, mainly because she was a pregnant woman out of wedlock. And because she was a pregnant woman out of wedlock, the the black community back then was not going to buy any situation coming from a black woman who was getting ready to birth a child out of wedlock. They were not going to they were not going to fall for nor try to hear any situations of any type of civil rights violation, because the first thing that they would have been focused on is, whoa, hold on, all right, you had a baby out of wedlock. Oh no, the black community was not accepting of any black woman who had a child out of wedlock. So because of that, 9 months later, Rosa Parks comes in, and the NAACP decided to use Claudette Colvin's situation and allow Rosa Parks to play the same role that Claudette Colvin played. All right. The only difference between Claudette Colvin's situation and Rosa Parks' situation was that Rosa Parks' situation was completely staged by the NAACP. All right, the NAACP gave Rosa Parks specific instructions to sit in the front that was reserved for the whites. And Rosa Parks did that, and she did it to a T. And she tried to make it look as if she was so tired. She was just so tired that she could not sit in the back, that she had no choice but to sit in the front of the bus. So so then Rosa Parks winds up getting arrested for that, and then the NAACP uses that situation to stage a boycott from for the Montgomery Bus Company for 381 days. And this was significant, considering that two-thirds of the blacks rode the Montgomery bus systems, and two-thirds of the blacks were going to boycott the Montgomery bus system, and that was going to cause that was going to economically affect the Montgomery bus system. This is more of the reason why the NAACP wanted to um, to enact a boycott, because they knew that economically this would affect them, and this would be the way that the NAACP can get anything that they wanted from the Montgomery um, bus system. Um, Obviously, this was the NAACP's drastic effect in trying to desegregate the South. But the main difference between Claudette's situation and Rosa Parks is that Claudette seemed more natural, more organic, and Rosa Parks was completely staged. Now, the NAACP wanted to use Claudette Colvin's situation, but Claudette had a child out of wedlock, all right, or was going to have a child out of wedlock. And black folks back then were not going to were not going to believe any woman who had or was going to have a child out of wedlock, regardless of whatever situation that black woman was a part of. They didn't care, because back then black folks had integrity, which unfortunately they do not have now. But back then black folks had integrity, so they weren't going to believe that a young black woman rights were violated. But Rosa Parks was perfect for the fitting. She was the perfect candidate, and Rosa Parks played her part to a T. She made herself look like the very thing that some black people portrayed back then, and that most black people play today, which is the victim. And we all know that there is no other race that plays the victim more than black folks, because the blacks have been um, the blacks for the most part, have been brainwashed and have been believed that the system that were made up of a bunch of white folks have done them wrong, and that they should play the victim all the time, and that they have been taught to believe that black folks have been oppressed and that black folks should be oppressed by the very so-called black leaders that are doing very well in this country, but that black folks never really wanted to question that, but instead believe every believe or have them or have making them believe that they are victims in this country. But Rosa Parks by no means is a hero at all. But yet look at the accolades that she had. I mean, she has her own statue at the Capitol. Um with all the accolades that she received over the years, Rosa Parks um clearly did not play the role of a hero at all. So, should she have deserved any of those accolades? Absolutely not. Not by a stretch. Not by a stretch. Okay? I mean, some can argue that um, Claudette Colvin seemed to be more of the hero than Rosa Parks, and that Claudette Colvin should have received all the accolades that Rosa Parks received, considering that Claudette Colvin was the first one to refuse to give up her seat um, at the Montgomery on a Montgomery bus at the time where segregation was legal. All right, Claudette Colvin should have been Rosa Parks. Claudette Colvin should have received the same accolades that Rosa Parks should have received. And how is it that Claudette Colvin, whose ideal situation was more organic, how is it that she doesn't receive any of the praise, but yet Rosa Parks does? And obviously, we all know why, because I just answered that question. um, but Rosa Parks is not a hero by any imagination. Rosa Parks is a fraud. She is a fraud. Now, I will give Rosa Parks her fair due. All right. She did play her role, and she played her role to a T. She went in and she did exactly what the NAACP wanted her to do, which was to play a pivotal role in them using her to be able to then get the the Montgomery bus boycott. They used her as a pawn to then be able to get uh into trying to motivate desegregation of the South, and they used Rosa Parks' very situation to do so. So I'll give Rosa Parks that. I mean, she played her role to a T. All right, but if there's any accolades that Rosa Parks should have received, she should have received the reward for Best Actress, because Rosa Parks was acting that day. All right. There's no reason why Rosa Parks should be considered a national treasure. For what? What did she do? Other than play the very role that the NAACP wanted her to play. This was all a rose. I'm sorry, a rouse. This was all staged by the NAACP, and Rosa Parks played along with it. She should receive a reward for acting like a national treasure, for acting like she was standing for civil rights. No, this was all staged in the beginning. This was all staged. And I'm sure that Rosa Parks probably had to think in the back of her mind, you know what? I don't know if I should go through this. Why not I just sit my black behind in the back like I'm supposed to? But she went along with it. She did exactly what the NAACP wanted her to do. And because of that, she's praised throughout the country. They use her for Black History Month as an example of strength and courage. Please, it's all a facade. It's all a ruse. It's not real. It wasn't real. But I will give Rosa Parks this. She definitely played a role, and she should receive an award for playing the actress of a civil rights activist. Isn't that amazing? See, you learn something new every single day in my channel. But let me know what you guys think of the matter. Leave a comment in the comment section after you subscribe to my channel. Um, Click the like button if you like the video. Share the video if you like the video. And subscribe to my channel, as I'll be able to provide you content on the double. Also, when you subscribe to my channel, click on the notification button so that you will be notified when my channel drops new YouTube content. All right? All right? Okay? All right. Understood? Understood. And with that being said, this is the conservative. Happy conservative perspective of Black History Month. And we will continue to keep this going until the end of February.